Hello, and welcome to Unbounded Growth, a podcast that challenges you to grow and become a better version of yourself. My name is Mark Allen, and together with my friend Adam, we share thoughts and ideas from the books that we read and how they enhance our personal growth and development. We also host other readers and leaders. We learn from their experiences through our discussions. Our episodes air every Tuesday at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you for listening in, and let's grow together. Unbounded Growth. Hello and welcome back to Unbounded Growth. We are so glad to be here. This is episode number 16. We are still talking about leadership development. We're talking about the 5 levels of leadership by Dr. John Maxwell. Last week we finished up talking about the 3rd level of leadership, which is production, how leaders become productive, and how being productive as a leader sets you apart from level 2 and level 1 leaders. And today we are moving away from the level 3 leaders and we start talking about level 4 leaders, people development. And so far, just to give you a recap of what we've discussed, we've talked about position, where leadership start. You begin by title. We talked about the upside, the downside, and what are the best behaviors you can have on position on our previous episode. We talked about permission, where people give you the permission to lead them, the right to lead them. And after that, we talked about production. When you move from permission to production. In permission, you learn how to build relationship. In production, you start making your team productive. You start helping your team win. And today, we start talking about people development. My name is Mark Allen Muteba. I'm your host, and I'm here with my friend and co-host, Adam Shabindo, who was sick last week, but doing a lot better this week. How are you doing, Adam?
I'm doing well. Sometimes things will just get too tough, and the several hours that I spend working. And last week, I just got home, and I was just beat down. This is not... So I was not feeling well, and I went to bed way early. And sick. That is one thing that I used to get sick a lot when I was a kid, but I rarely get sick. I'm always 90% of the year I'm in full health, which I thank God for. And so I'm glad to be back here again. I'm glad to be sharing, and I'm really excited about this these next 2 levels here. Because it's the place where I'm aspiring to be, or where I'm spending a lot of my time investing in my own growth and also in the growth of others. So this is a great, really great level, and really you did a really great job last week.
Thank you.
I had a chance to listen to the episode, and some of the things there were really good. The stuff that you shared. So I'm excited for this next episode and for the next few ones that are coming next.
Absolutely.
Up here.
And thank you guys for joining in again last week and continuing to share and to give us your feedback, and hear back from you is always exciting, and hear how things are going. Again, as I said last week, we at the very end of this season, our very last episode will not be on leadership, but we have a special guest. We already pre-recorded the episode and we'll be playing it back toward the end of the season. We don't touch woods. We had an amazing time just recording with her and bouncing questions back and forth, talking about some of the issues that minorities face here in the United States of America, but issues as well that do not just exist here, exist all around the world. And what are the things that we can do to tackle them, how to take a journey of faith and overcome all the challenges that are coming up to you. In our next season, in the 3rd season, some of the things that I can give you some spoiler alerts here, but we start the season talking a lot about the brain, talking a lot about the thoughts, your thinking pattern, and what are the things that you can do to improve your life by improving the way you think. We have some very good books lined up and some very amazing guests that we'll be taking out through that journey. And regardless of where you come from, regardless of your background, I believe that all of us can learn about this. Enough for those announcements. Today we are talking about people development, aka reproduction. This is one of the most exciting chapters for me as it is for Adam. As it is something, we always say that we try to share with y'all things that we go through, experiences, the lessons that we are learning. And to be honest, this is one thing I am currently learning. Have I done it in the past? Yes, I've tried to do in the past. I've seen how to develop leaders, how to give leaders opportunities to become the people they have the potential to be. But I still believe that I have a lot of lessons to learn in people reproduction. I still have a lot of lessons to learn in how to produce leaders. And of course, Pinnacle is just something we can talk about because none of us has actually attained that
Yeah.
level. It's something we aspire to. And in the future, we meet some Pinnacle leaders that we have on the podcast here to discuss about that journey of becoming that person, becoming a Pinnacle. But at this level here, how do you go about developing someone who has the potential to be a leader to being a leader? John Maxwell started this chapter by saying that effective leaders understand that what got them in the current level of leadership won't be enough to get them to the next level. And that's the number one. That's the base of this level. Once you understand that, you have to make more effort today to become tomorrow what you want to be tomorrow. That's when you start understanding that being a productive leader is great. But until you start reproducing other leaders that can carry on your legacy long after you're gone, long after people have forgotten you, or long after you've even left the company or left something that you started, until you understand that, you are not ready to move to a level of reproduction. Another thing here, John Maxwell says in the introduction, which I think captures the essence of this level, is that everybody is a candidate for development. And that's one mistake I've made and I've been making approaching this level is because at the beginning I had a hard time identifying people that can be developed into leaders. I believe everybody can be has the ability to be developed into a leader, but not everybody will be developed into a leader. That's just the reality. And and and
Absolutely.
and the keen understanding of a leader is to know the people who not only have the ability to be developed into leaders, but the people who can, who will spend time, who will be worth investing your time on to be developed into leaders. Have you ever invested your time in someone, so much time trying to get someone to do something, and the person just never gets to the level of your expectations? And sometimes as leaders, it can be frustrating if you're trying again, and you just say, why don't people ever seem to get it? I read a book by Patrick Lencioni. I don't even know how to say his name correctly, but I think his name is Patrick Lencioni. He has a different last name, which which is always challenging for me. But he was talking about building a team. And particularly, if you've read any of his books, he always talks about lessons in kind of like stories. He's literally talking about a normal anecdote. He's talking about this person took over this company and he was trying to make things work. And then he went to see his friend, and his friend was telling him, this is what you need to do. And one thing he says in that book, oh, I think it's the book's like the five qualities of like a team player or something like that. One thing he says in that book, he says that regardless of how good regardless of how good you are as a coach, you can never win if you don't have the right players on your team. And as a leader, you cannot develop people if they're not the right players. You cannot help people grow into leaders if they don't show the willingness to be there, if they don't show the potential to be there, and if they are not putting in the work and the effort to be there. And it takes a leader to identify the people that have that potential and invest in them. The 80-20 rule, invest in those 20% that can give you an 80% return.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna kind of to launch this off. I've been studying a book, and I'm taking this book very slow because it's a very important book. I'm really building my leadership, and the book is called The Power of Character in Leadership by Miles Monroe. And I'm really digesting this book slowly to be able to captivate everything because character is what protects your leadership. But in that book, he talks about a leader as being a visionary, a person who sees, who can see what everybody else is not seeing, a person who has a level of intuition that's other people do not have. You can say something, and then of course there's a whole logic why you say it,
Right.
but it's something that creates a lot of value to a lot of people. And here, just kind of in the spirit of John C. Maxwell, he's talking about growing an organization.
Mm.
And another book actually I read by Jim Collin, it's called Good to Great. It's about developing companies, good companies or great companies. And the leadership plays an essential key in making that type of development. However, you cannot just be one person and have all those solutions. You cannot just be one visionary and create all those solutions. You need other people. You need to be developing people. And for you to develop people, you need to pick among the people that you are leading. You need to see who actually has the leadership potential. And of course, anyone,
Right.
as we said earlier, anyone has can have the potential, or not the potential, but anyone can become a leader. It's just some people are just naturally there, and you have to be able to pick among the people you are leading to see who can be your potential replacements, who can be the person that you can entrust with a lot of with your work and your ability. And because they say because people are in any organization most appreciable asset. Once you invested in people, once you spend your time and your efforts in growing a group of leaders, then you have shared your vision with all of those leaders. Then the whole team, it becomes a team of not just one visionary. You all have one same goal, but you have multiple visionaries. And we're going to talk about it a little later here, where it's kind of it lifts off things off your shoulder.
That's right.
In a very amazing way. And and that's jumping into straight into the advantages or the upsides of people development.
Before we get into there, Adam, I just remember something here that he says pretty much at the conclusion of his introduction here. He said that leaders on the people development, I talked about it, but I wanted to paraphrase what he says. Leaders on the people development level of their leadership shift their focus from production achieved by others to people development of their potential. And they put only 20% of their focus on their personal productivity, while 80% of their focus on developing and helping others. Again, as Adam was saying, it's a challenge, especially when you are a hands-on leader, when you always like to get your hands dirty, when you always like to help and become the best and all that. Last week, when we were recording with Montage Rules, Adam and I were laughing at the fact that a lot of time I'm always behind the scene doing all the technical stuff. But then when you realize you have to be in front of the camera, and you cannot be both in front of the camera and behind the camera at the same time, you need to train and raise someone who can do the work that you're doing. Are they going to do it as well as you can do it at first? Potentially not, especially if it's their first time putting their hands to it. Potentially not. But what are you ready to trade off so that you can grow up? What are you ready to put aside so that you can become better? And again, even Adam and I are working on this podcast. We don't plan on eternizing ourselves here. If at some point we need to move on, the podcast and the vision of Unbounded Growth will not stop with us. It doesn't start. It probably starts with us, but it does not stop with us. And how do we make that transition? How do we go about raising another host, getting someone to be as passionate as we are about it? And it takes leadership, it takes seeing the potential, and it takes helping. That's why you see shows like, I like something like The Daily Show about how Jon Stewart, handed off the Daily Show to someone like Trevor Noah, who had not hosted a TV show before, especially not in America, understanding all that stuff. But the only way these companies or these places, these platforms survive that long is because they've learned how to develop the leader of the next generation. Even if you don't care at all about people development for a company, you just think, hey, I'm doing a great job and God has given me another 80 years on this earth, I'll be okay. The truth is, whether you like it or not, at some point we all exit this journey. Some we exit the journey of life at 30, some we exit it at 90, but all of us exit. The question is, Are you taking your vision and your company to the grave with you? Or are you handing it to someone who can do a better job than you have done, who can take your company to a higher level, to a higher dimension? Someone who led a company in the 1980s and probably understood how business worked back then. We probably have challenges leading the same company in 2023 where everything is an hashtag, where everything has to run off social media and things of that nature. And sometimes you need to have a perspective from a different person who will not run away from the original vision of the company or whatever the vision that your company has, but who can adapt the vision of the company to the current model. So there are so many benefits to actually developing leaders of the next generation. So Adam, let's get into the upside of people development. The first one.
Yeah, people development sets you apart from most leaders. We mentioned this in the previous episode, that the previous level, that you don't need to be at level 4 to be successful. You can stay at level 3 and you can be a winner. And that's basically a level 3 leadership is you're pushing through. A lot of people trust you. They are there because they want to, and you are producing a lot of amazing results. But transitioning from there to try to go to a step higher and start developing other people, it puts you in a position where others, leaders, are not reaching. People who stay on production, people are only focused on production, they are not really reaching that other level. And it has its benefits. Like some of them, that is the fact that you can reproduce pretty much anything. Once you have a formula, you can reproduce anything. I'm writing a book right now, and I'm still writing, and I really think that book gonna be really great. And in the book, I'm writing about a systemic approach to problem solving. Like a best, and I'm saying that if you can cook, you can solve problems. And I'm basically writing my story, writing the what it means to cook, what cooking means to me, and how do I use my cooking skills to solve problems. And but one thing that I'm acknowledging in my book is the fact that when you follow the steps that I am giving in the book, you should get at least your problem solved by 70%. Which means if it's a problem of mathematics in class or whatever, you should be able to get at least a C and pass the class. Which means at least at the bare minimum of problem solving, you should be achieving satisfactory result. However, I am keeping something else, and I'm trying to get in touch with an actual chef to be able to complete this last chapter.
Right.
And on the last chapter, I talk about the way of an excellent chef. That is something you cannot just scale easily. It's something that it required a specific touch that only people who are gifted or have been heavily trained to achieve that can get there. And that's the value of of the teamwork of whenever you have a team that is very well dedicated and it put together, and it's a very specialized team, which means there's a lot of complementarity. And for you to create that type of complementarity, you need leadership. You need leaders who are trained to be completing each other for the organization to work in this type of synergy. And John C Maxwell actually talked about it. He said, like, anybody can replicate physical capital.
Right.
But the one resource nobody can replicate is the dedication, the teamwork, the skills of a company's employees. Develop them. And then he said, develop them. And he actually was quoting somebody else.
Right.
He was still quoting the former Secretary of Labor, Robert Reich. And he say, and then he add now, develop them, and you become a 1 in 1,000 leader. Because now, you see, growing up, we used to watch this TV show. It was called Naruto. My brothers watched it mostly. I was never a TV guy growing up. I just never cared about TV. But my brother was watching Naruto, and there's this one superpower that Naruto have. It's multi-cloning. Like he would just scream multi-cloning, and then you have 10 Narutos now with abilities. If they're attacking an enemy, imagine 10 people with the strength that is almost the same, attacking the same or accomplishing the same task. And it creates, and they're all working in synergy. They're all completing each other. If somebody gonna punch the eye, the other one gonna punch or bite the foot, or the other one gonna press somewhere else. And at the same time, that's how you bring something down that is very heavy. And it sets you apart. It makes you different from the rest of the crowd. It makes you different from people who are just producing, or they are having people produce for them. For you, you have multiple people who can also achieve the same level or give the same direction, have the same type of intuition, or the similar type of intuition that you might have.
And Adam, now that you're talking about Naruto, I've never heard about it. I was also not a big TV person. I was mostly the kid that wanted to be on the street all the time and play football and get dirty and stuff like that. Now that you're talking about that, it reminds me. I believe John Maxwell talks about it. Maybe in another book, maybe in this book. It says that when you produce, you multiply your efforts. It's just like, you're taking a company from 1 to 10 and the effort is being multiplied. But when you reproduce leaders, your strength goes from multiplication to exponentiation. 4 times 2 and 4 to the power of 2 are two different numbers. You get 8 versus you get 16. So every time you reproduce yourself like Naruto, you're getting to a point where you multiplying your effort. Think about it this way, right? If yourself as a leader, you are capable of attracting 1,000 people to you. Think about producing 10 other leaders that can attract 1,000 people to them. And that's where you go from multiplication to exponentiation. And you think about leaders like the Lord Jesus Christ, who, as in his healthy ministry, could attract so many people. He had 12 disciples, 12 apostles that were always around him. And as soon as Jesus Christ dies and Peter goes to give a sermon, which is commonly known, the Sermon on the Mountain or whatever, the day the Holy Spirit came and all that, Peter goes from a church of 12 to 60 believers, including the other disciples, to 120, I believe, to 3,000 the very first day Peter preaches. And then the persecution started following them and stuff like that. They spread all around Israel and Asia and Europe, and everywhere they go, they start bringing more followers to Jesus Christ, who was no longer there. So my point in telling an example like this is that every time you multiply leaders, you grow your influence exponentially. And you don't need to be present in order for your vision to get greater. So another point here John Maxwell makes in the in the first sub point here, he talks about, it's Blanchard actually who talks about it, Jim Blanchard. He says that the mark of someone with potential to grow is open to the process. So how do you go about identifying people who have the potential of growth? How do you go about identifying people that you can move into a personal development to grow them into leadership? I'm going through that process with a young lady at church right now. And one of the things that I noticed with her was the willingness to grow. Always asking questions, always being curious. Mark, how do you set up a calendar? Mark, how do you go about this? She was always asking questions. And you'll be surprised, like, and this one beautiful thing about people development. When the person has that potential and shows the willingness to grow, you actually don't make a lot of effort to get them there. Your role becomes more of a pointing into the right direction. Just like, okay, next time when you face a situation like this, move in this direction. Or next time when you come across this type of situation, move into this direction. But because the person is so in love with the process of growth, they actually can move on their own without you having to tell them everything to do, everything they have to do. And that's also the potential of someone who won't potentially move into leadership. Someone who constantly need your direction. Someone who's always daring to like, what can I do? What can I do? The person who never takes initiative, the person who always waits to be reminded of everything that they're supposed to do, the person who's afraid to go out of their way to try something new. And those are things that you can start teaching the person. And some people, to them, is not natural that you can go and take them through the process, but at least it gives you an idea about where is this person and where is this other person, and how can I raise them up and bring them up to speed at the same time. The second point that John
Yeah.
Maxwell, go ahead, Adam.
No, you can go
Yes.
ahead.
The second point that John Maxwell mentions here, say people development assures growth can be sustained. And I think we've implied this point in so many ways. And John Maxwell says here, what gives an organization the best chance for sustaining growth and success? Developing and training people. I cannot overemphasize this. The best asset for your organization are the people. And you want to grow your organization, you want to grow to a level where you can stand in competition and compete with other people in your line of business. Learn to develop your people. David Friedman, when we're here with him on the podcast, and you can check the episode, it's actually a pretty lengthy one, but a pretty good one because he has so many lessons in it. He talked about how to empower your employees. Imagine if every time you had to call your store and they'll answer you on the phone, they say, okay, the manager is not here. There's nothing we can do for you. You probably won't like to go back to that store to shop for something again. If every time you have to drive for an hour just to go to talk to the manager and they tell you, listen, we would like to repair your computer, but the manager is not here and none of us here can repair this computer. How much do you think can your business grow if you are the only person who can solve all the problems of your company? The way to solve and to grow your company where other people can focus on certain things and you can keep on focusing on the growth and the vision of the company is when you learn how to empower your employee. Give them the training that's necessary. Expose them to the things that are necessary. And I know there's always a caveat to this because a lot of companies say that, well, what if we spend all this money, we train all our employees, and then they leave to go get a better job? The question that I may ask you again is, what if you don't train them and they stay within your company?
Mm-hmm.
There's always a risk involved because if you train them and they leave, it's okay. You've done your part of your job and your company grows in better reputation because everywhere they go, they say people that come from that company actually loyal, can get their job done. You grow the reputation of your firm. Yes, you lose to some extent, but look at the benefits that you get. But if you don't have trained employees that get to stay with you for 50 years, you know how painful that is to always have to remind someone to log out of the computer, to not click on any email or things of that nature. I know I'm exaggerating, but you know how painful that can be to have a child in the house that doesn't know how to take care of himself, you know? So training people is the best way to sustain growth.
Yeah, and bringing them to the ability of being there, as Mark said, being there without you being there. That is one of the biggest challenge in leadership, actually. Raising people to the level that they can be more or less independent of you being there. And that is something that we've been striving to do actually at Bora as a company, is that we try to build this institution, something that's doing business in Africa and just being from Africa. Something that we have seen is that people in leadership don't reproduce. Whenever a president is not there, his entire legacy just goes with him.
Exactly.
And it's just not at that level. It also goes in companies, in public companies. Once you've changed the leader, the institution is completely inexistent. You have to rebuild everything anew every single time. And that's because there is nobody else that leader has trained and placed in position of leadership. People are just people are always in competition, and that is a great sign of underdevelopment in such places. And John C. Maxwell actually, he set up some type of a leadership paradigm in here with a few points that he talked about. And he said leaders transfer ownership for work to those who execute the work. And basically what you do. This is thing. When I went to New York in I think it was last year. I went to New York and I was speaking at the Africa Business Conference, I believe. I believe at Columbia, and um, I asked a question actually before I had a chance to speak. I asked a question to Fred Swaniker, which is he's a very influential man from Ghana. Trained. He's the president, I believe, and the founder of the African Leadership Institute in Ghana, and they train thousands of leaders all across Africa. They are really doing an amazing job with the leadership. And I asked him a question: How do I not keep on putting so much money and effort into training people all the time? While I'm here, we spent so much money at the first couple of years just to have a team, to have people who can do the work the way we want the work be done, and so on. And I say, like, how do you, because that is not sustainable, how do we scale that all across Africa? And he responded to me, say, like, a lot of leaders are keepers. It's like you have all of this amazing idea. Of course, as I said at the beginning, that a leader is a visionary. So you have this vision, you have all of these plans, but they all stay just up here in your head. And they are never reaching those plans and those things that you're trying to do. They are not getting to the level of the people that should be executing them. So, which means, and that's what John C. Maxwell is trying to say here, is that you need to be transferring the ownership. You need to be transferring the responsibility and the ideas to the people that you are leading. And once you have done that, it creates a huge difference in your organization, because now people feel empowered. People feel like it's their thing. This is not just a company that belongs to Adam and it's only Adam who can push this forward. This is our company. There's that transfer of ownership. The second point that he makes here is, say, leaders create the environment for ownership where each person wants to be responsible. And that's exactly what I just said, where the language changes. It becomes like, hey, this is our place. This is our village. Once you've transferred that ownership, what would happen? It will be like, you see, like in a village, whenever a village is dirty, when you look around, the village is dirty, and you are expecting one person to come and just clean the whole village. That is very hard. But if everyone can clean their front yard, can try to swipe their front yard, their front yard, you will see that will make a substantial difference. Because at the end of the day, if everyone clean their space, everyone make that effort, and they feel like, hey, this is my space, it belongs to me, and they have that type of ownership, at the end of the day, the whole village will be cleaned because people will be participating to the work.
That's right.
The other point is, say, leaders coach the development of personal capabilities. That is investing in people. I can't emphasize enough that leadership and personal growth, they go together hand in hand. You cannot really lead if you're not growing.
That's right.
You cannot.
That's right.
So investing in the capabilities of others to grow, it's one thing that I learned very early on, and I think I'm going to share a story near the end. But it's something that I learned, and it's something that I'm practicing, actually. That's why I like this chapter, because it's where I want to be, and it's where I want to stay and keep going even higher. I don't want to kind of just start regressing, because I've been practicing some of these principles for the past 2 years, and they've given me a lot of positive results. And that is investing in the personal growth of the people you are leading. Sending them books. I send my people that I lead. I find a book that is interesting. I send it to them. I find something, an opportunity, a training that is very necessary for them to just even be great based on their potential. If it's a leadership training and I see somebody who can lead, I send them there.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a skill training, I send them to get better skills. And that's actually creates a huge difference in the organization. And the last point he makes is say leaders learn fast themselves and encourage others also to learn quickly. This is something actually I'm experiencing even right now as we are speaking. I spent about 6 months trying to get my research to work. And mind you, I lead undergraduate researchers also because I really love empowering younger people to be researchers, and especially young Black people. I have a mission of hopefully at some point graduating more PhDs that are my skin color, and they have some similar origin. And I do mentor a few young people in the lab. And one thing is like when I'm struggling for 6 months, they're having a downtime. They're not doing anything. They will come there, they chill, like, they look at me, we look at each other. Nothing is really going forward. Now that this past week, I changed a few things in my mind, and I developed a new technique of fabrication, of creating these chips. I developed a very brand new way actually, and I'm gonna publish that methods because it's never been done before. So then when I developed it, and then I spent the whole day, one day, learn how to do it and be really good at it. The next day, I'm calling my students. I'm like, hey, you need to pick it up. Now I did it in a day. I'm gonna give you a week, but you need to learn it fast because we need to get this project to the next level. And that's important, and it will require you to shift from doing to switch doing to developing, to empowering. So it will require you to believe in people, and it will require you to share the load with others.
And that's very important. I mean, you spend a day with Adam, you start speaking nerdish at some point. So I hope y'all were able to follow with everything that he was saying here. I mean, in this lab, so a lot of what he's talking about, I can relate. I can see, oh, that chip that you were talking about that day. But yeah, before that, it sounded like nerdish to me. But yeah, you have to love people. You have to invest in people. You see, the thing I like about this book and about the 5 levels of leadership is that you cannot leave one level behind and move to the next level. It just doesn't happen. In order for you to get to a point where you start developing leaders, your vision has to be clear. You have to be crystal clear about where you want them to go. Because if people do not know where you want them to go, then, every place they get looks like the final destination. If you don't know where you're going, every place. I remember traveling from Congo to Nairobi. I traveled via bus. I traveled via Rwanda, Uganda, and then we got to Kenya. Every city that looked beautiful with a lot of lights, I thought was Nairobi. And I'll get off the bus and thinking and asking around, is Nairobi? And I'll go, no, we're in Kisii, or we somewhere. I'm like, oh wow. Because when you do not know where you're going, every single place looks like the final destination. And John Maxwell says here one point that among the things that Edmund mentioned before we move to the third point here, it says that but Ken Blanchard it was actually a coding game. It says the test of leadership is not what happens when you are there, but what happens when you are not there. You want to know how good of a leader you are or how well you've developed your team? Just check and think about, how does my company run when I'm not here? How does my business run? How do my ideas run when I'm not here? And if things always seem to be chaotic when you're not there, it's time to do more training for your people. I always pity leaders that cannot take vacation. You call yourself a business owner, but you can't take vacation because if you take vacation, you start losing customers. Then it's time maybe to rethink your strategy. A lot of leaders are actually digging their own graves with their own hands because they're overworking themselves. You see, I always refer a lot to the Bible because it's probably the book I've read the most of all the books that I've read. Whether you're religious or not, you can pick the Bible as a religious book, as I do personally. As I take the Bible as a God written letter for me. But if you're not religious, take the Bible as a history book and try to learn some lessons. Jethro was the father-in-law of Moses. Moses was the guy that took the children of Israel out of Egypt. So Moses is traveling with the children of Israel. You're talking about like thousands and thousands of people and family. And guess what? Moses was the only person who would sit down and solve every single problem. Think about it this way: in your neighborhood, wherever you live, that you have one guru who knows all your problems. The day you fight with your spouse, you go to him. Your kids are not being respectful to you, you go to him. You have a problem with your neighbor. There was no court at that day, at that time. There was no court, there was no police, there was nothing. There was Moses. And everybody went to Moses. His father-in-law, Jethro, comes to him and sees him. He was sitting pretty much on the judging seat from morning to evening, from pretty much dawn to dusk or whatever you say. And his father-in-law observes him and comes to him and is like, Moses, whatever you're doing is wrong because at some point you wear yourself off. You see, one of the challenges with leaders, and I've seen this in my life, sometimes as a leader, you want to be wanted, right? You feel good when people are coming to you and asking you questions, when you are providing solutions, when you are fixing problems. It's great when you're a productive leader. But when you become a reproductive leader, you don't want to be the center of all answers. You want to be the person who points people in the right direction, but at some point you want to decentralize the answer and the solutions of problems from you to everybody else, where everybody can go and find solutions on their own, where everybody can go and actually develop solutions on their own. So sometimes when I work a lot with my sister Marlene. When we started doing photography, I have to admit I was better. I was spending a lot of time, I was learning and this and that. But today I can't compete with her because she has practiced the skill more than I do. The 80%, the 20% of time that I spent, training her has given me back 80% of the results because Marlene has grown better as a photographer and she gets a better job than I could have ever done. How could I keep up with photography, podcast, videography, school, family, work, and everything? But every time there's a need of pictures, I don't have to think twice. It's just like, hey, Marlene, I need some pictures. Can we work on this? And just delegating that part of me to her has actually given me more results and better benefits. And even when we work with Adam and all that, just learning to take your job and say, if I'm not here, how well can this continue to work? All right. The next one here. And in conclusion to this chapter here, John Maxwell says that never forget that leadership is the art of helping people change from who they are, from who they thought to be to who they ought to be. Again, I'll say it. Never forget that leadership is the art of changing people from who they thought to be to who they ought to be. It's important to help people realize, listen, you have this potential and this is how much you can do. The third point that John Maxwell makes here said that people development empowers others to fulfill their leadership responsibility. People development is all about empowerment. Adam just mentioned a very crucial example here that always it pains me. And I think a lot about it, and I'll talk about it in a minute. John Quincy Adams said actually that if you actually inspire others to dream more, learn more, and do more, and become more, then you're a leader. The point that Adam mentioned that pains me is about African leadership. I've always wondered, why is it hard until today in Africa to have two good leaders back to back? You have one great leader in one generation, and wait maybe 3 to 4 generations before you see another great leader. It reminds me again this story in the Bible. The Bible talks about Moses. Moses had Joshua, and Moses worked with Joshua. When Moses died, there was no problem. The children of Israel continued with their vision that God had given them to move out of Egypt, to go to Canaan, and they got into Canaan. When you read the book of Joshua, and you finish the book of Joshua, you begin this book in the Bible called Judges. And in the first chapter, the Bible says that there arose a generation, the children of Israel, that did not know the God of Israel. They didn't know the God who moved them out of Egypt. They didn't know how they even got into Canaan in the first place. And every time I read that, I always wonder, how did they get to that point? How did they get to a point where they did not even know that this is our history? And sometimes looking back today, we can condemn them all we want. But how much about our history do we know? Even as minorities, whether you're from Asia, you're from Africa, you're from South America, wherever you're from. And sometimes even let me say majorities of the people that are here. How much of your history do you know? How much of the history of your family do you know? And sometimes you get into a company, how much of the company history do you know? And the only way we can pass leadership onto others is by teaching them, by making sure that whatever job that you do, who else can do it? One thing that I always try to apply within our church, or the church where I attend here, the question we always ask every leader: if you are not here, who can do your job? Whether you're a musician or you're a singer, whether you're an IT or you're an accountant, whatever work you do, if you're not here, who else can do it? In corporate America, I've also seen some employees holding the company hostage because it's the only person who developed a whole program, is the only person who knows how the program works. As a matter of fact, in one of the companies that I work for, there was a program, a script that was attached to someone's name. It was literally called something like Adam's script. Because Adam developed the script, Adam knew how the script worked, Adam knew the ins and outs of the script, that there was nobody else within the company that knew how to do it. And guess what? Adam won't be fired. Because Adam was a terrible employee. Adam was doing everything that Adam wanted to do. But nobody would dare firing him because one day Adam is sick, they can't contact him on the phone, and the service goes down. Nobody knows what to do from there. And that's always a very, very dangerous thing for any company in the world. Never allow that silo of information into within one person. Always strive to develop the people. If you're not here, who else can do the job as good as you can?
Yeah, and talking about responsibilities, actually, like how people can actually do, like how do you translate that? You have to actually make sure that you are being very clear as a leader. A leader is a person who brings a lot of clarity, make everything absolutely clear. And in the spirit of clarity, you got to make sure that you are setting the right expectations. So John C. Maxwell talking about it here, he said that let them know that you are responsible to them, but not for them. And that is one thing that actually let people fly off themselves as leaders. Miles Monroe, I was just reading him today, and he was talking about that there are the mechanics of leadership, and then there's a natural aspect of leadership. And he was talking about like a bird, like seagulls, and like a seagull versus a plane. And he say like a seagull can just be able to take off at any time. They don't need to clean it. They don't need to fuel it. They don't need to do all the mechanics that you can think of. So you don't need, when you have leaders, you got to make sure you're mentioning to them that, hey, what I'm actually showing you here is to fly.
Right.
I am not here to basically fly with you or to basically do all the mechanics for you. Right? As he say here, he say that you need to let them know that you're responsible to them, but not for them. By that, he said, by that I mean, you will take responsibility for providing training. That's what you're responsible for. Supplying tools, offering opportunities, and creating an environment conducive for their development. You need to make that clear that, hey, this is me teaching you how to fly. It's not me flying for you or flying with you. It's you gotta get the wings and get yourself going. That's a neat sense of leadership. And he goes even down and go ahead and quotes Melinda Gates, and he say that if you are successful, it is because somewhere, sometime, someone gave you a life or an idea that started you off in the right direction. That's where the level 4 leadership find its foundation or its basis on the fact that you are giving people a chance. You are giving people an opportunity to build themselves also from level 1. Because first you are giving them the level 1 leadership, and then you are helping them, empowering them, encouraging them to build themselves up all the way to at least level 3,
right,
where they can produce a lot of results and the organization can expand and grow. This is the most essential part of things, because as a leader, we talked about the 80 and 20 and 20%, where you are spending 80% of your time developing other people and 20% of your time being productive. So your productivity in your organization is developing people, but you don't want to be developing people who are going to be dependent on you. You want to be developing people who, at the end of the day, can pick themselves up and fly on their own. That is the essence of people development. It's their ability to fly on their own and make a difference in the organization or in their community.
And Adam, I think when you are quoting Melinda Gates, there's something John Maxwell adds here that I want to read as well. He said that no leader is self-made. Every one of us was given a start by someone else. That is a gift. Our gift back is to take the responsibility and do our best to lead others with effectiveness and integrity. Listen, whether it's your parent, or it's a mentor, or it's your pastor, or whoever it is that had some type of influence in your life, every one of us was given an opportunity by someone who believed that we had the potential of becoming leaders. And as leaders on level 4, it's our responsibility to also look for those people and give them an opportunity to see that potential. And that's why it's so essential as level 4 leaders to be able to identify the potential leaders or the potential within the people that can become leaders of tomorrow and create an environment that fosters growth. Any organizational lead, I try to always believe that everybody can become better than they are today and set that standard within the organization. As Adam said, it's always a beautiful thing. Adam and I share books all the time. If Adam is reading something that's like, is very insightful, he's like, Mark, you know what? I think you need to check this book. And if I'm reading something, I'm like, Adam, listen, I'll send him a few screenshots. I'm like, you cannot afford not to read this book, you know? And that's how we keep ourselves accountable as far as leadership is concerned. And that's how we keep the people that work with us and that are around us accountable for growth and leadership. John Maxwell talks about the 4th point, and the 5th one here, we'll be finishing up with it. He says this, the 4th one is actually a short one. He said people development empowers the leader to lead larger. Now, this is one of the best things that I've read in this book and one of the big things I've learned in my life. One of the biggest responsibility of every leader is to think. I'll say that again. One of the biggest responsibility of every leader is to think. And you may think like, well, everybody thinks. No. You need to think about the company. You need to think about the vision. You need to think about the future. You need to think about the potential dangers. It's like you are on a tree. You know, like they say elders, the way they used to travel before in Africa, when the forest is too big, right? They'll have one person who will climb on top of the tree. And we look and be like, okay, I think we're going the right direction, or no, we are going in the wrong direction. And the joke is actually that sometimes people, we like climb on the tree, get on top of it, and then shut back. Wrong forest, we're in the wrong forest. Let's just get out of it and get somewhere else. But my point is, leaders have the primary responsibility to think for the company. I work with a friend of mine for a company that we're building together. And I used to share with him, and I told him, listen, regardless of what we're doing, we are at the infancy of this company. I do not want you to get too much into the weeds of the company. I don't want you to start wondering, why is this application not working the way I want? I try to log in and then I get this error. I say, that's all good. Put that on me. I want you to treat me like that. Put everything of that on me. What I want you to focus on is how does the company move from this point forward? What are the things that we need to do in our strategy? Adam at Bora Technology, the reality is that the day it stops thinking about the future is the day Bora Technology will start dying.
Pretty much.
Because his primary responsibility is not to wonder, like, if he brings a project within the company, and Adam and I have talked a lot, his responsibility is not to sit down with people and start designing and start, going into the weeds. Oh no, you're supposed to do it this way. This way we will not work. No. At some point, it's like, I entrust the people that I work with to get their job done. It's my primary responsibility, maybe to go look for investors, maybe to go talk to people, maybe to tell people what are the great things that we are doing out there. And I think Elon Musk, actually, we talk a lot about him because I kind of have a love-hate relationship with him. I admire him as a person, as a leader, but some of the stuff he does, I'm just like, I don't think I would like to work for you. When Elon Musk took over Twitter, he wanted to be in every developer's meeting. He wanted to have his hands as dirty as possible. And guess what? Tesla stocks started dropping because the leader who was supposed to be the visionary was doing something that he was not supposed to do in the first place. And you see that on every single level on how it affects the company. So as leaders, it's important to empower, it is important to delegate so that you can have time to think and to keep the vision of the company.
Yeah, and the other points that I'm just going to make it quickly on this point 4 here. You say you cannot become an effective level 4 leader unless you are willing to let go of some of your responsibilities. You cannot be everywhere every time. You cannot be at the beginning of the company, when you're the only employee, or you have
chief everything officer,
1 or 2, you become a chief everything officer. I've lived through that, actually, where I'm the marketing guy, I'm the accountant, I'm everything. And that's actually, it's built character. It helps you understand how every department works in such a way that you can help people whenever they are training them there. But something that I'm going to jump into here is the number 5. The people development provides great personal fulfillment. And one thing that John C. Maxwell goes here, he talks about the people he has developed and what they are actually doing and how they're contributing to their life. And I think I shared this story with Mark a couple of years ago, now nearly 2 years. I met a young man. His name is Dressy. Dressy is such an amazing young man. Dressy's leadership to me every day is impressive. Anybody who actually know us or know our story. I met Dressy. His parent told me that, well, our son, he doesn't talk to people. He doesn't laugh. We never even seen him laugh. And I met him, pretty much that was the story. I asked him, who do you want to be in life? I don't know. What's your passion? I don't know. And so to me, it was puzzling. I faced people come to me when they have almost at least a good idea as to where they're going, what they're going to do, and so on. And then I would help them now basically situate themselves, organize a few things, pick the right courses, do the right training, read the right books, stuff like that. But I was like, man, Tracy, this is gonna be hard. And I started observing Tracy for about a week, spent some time with him, and ask him about money and so on, and crack a few jokes. We tried to light up with the mood. Anybody who knows me and my brother, we're just kind of the life of the party. Try to make people happy and make people laugh and so on. And he started picking up slowly. I spent a lot of time investing in him, investing on his leadership. As we are speaking right now, Dressy holds things. He lives with me. He's also my roommate, my apartment mate, if I can say. Dressy holds things down in this house. From the person who knows where everything is him. I'm coming. Do we have this at home? He knows. The other day, actually, I was going to work. I received a call back. Hey, Adam, did you forget your lunch? I goes, man, he notices even that my lunchbox is where it usually is. It means that I have forgotten my lunch. I saw he struggled with public speaking, and I was kind of just talking to people and in general. And recently, something that I didn't even push him to do, or I didn't even, facilitate the process. But Tracy is reading how to talk to and how to win friends and influence others by Dale Carnegie. I wake up in the morning, I hear him, and he reads out loud. Like he opened the book and he's literally just reading it to himself and fulfilling. And I go, wow, oh my gosh, like a couple of weeks ago, it was a couple of months ago or a year ago, we're fighting over like, hey, gotta develop yourself, gotta develop a public speaking skill. Now he's the guy who talks to everybody. He makes everybody feel really comfortable in this house. He offers people things, and it's just this transformation that is happening in his life that to me has become such a huge blessing just to even have him in the house. He came from, he's just sitting there, to the most valuable asset that I can have as I'm pursuing my PhD. And that's to me was, it's a story that I think if I'm writing a book in the future of anything that is due to growth, I want to write that type of story. And that's the really personal fulfillment that his life is now affecting or impacting my life and is really helping me pursue my degree and potentially graduate. And I'm going to be giving him a lot of credits for my graduation. So I did a smaller investment into Tracy. Now the return is so big because now he's going to be so useful to his family. He goes home and he's completely changed. Like his parents will call me. They'll be like, oh my gosh, what did you do to our kid? Now he can smile, he can laugh, he can hang out with people, he can participate actively to the life of the house, and something in the community. He creates solutions. He takes out the trash every day. Nobody else does. It's really impressive. So I really like to tell that story.
Absolutely, and I've heard a lot about Tracy. I remember when Adam started telling me about him and the challenges that he had to face, going up with Tracy and all that. And every time, like, he tells me about the things that he does, and even at the house when he has to do a recording, and he's like, Tracy's behind the camera trying to help him with things that you don't see behind the scenes. But it's amazing to see how and that type of fulfillment. I don't think there's any feeling that matches that. Every time I sit down here, to be honest, I'm one of those people who stands on the shoulders of those who came before me. I stand on the shoulders of a lot of people like Billy Ramazani, Jean-Jacques Bite. I stand a lot on the shoulders of a lot of people like my brother Christian or my parents, just to become the person that I've become today. I was that guy. I was that kid that everybody was praying for to at least just graduate from high school. And just sitting where I am today, I see the joy and fulfillment in the eyes of the people that were patient with me. And that's the last thing about leadership. Sometimes you invest in someone and you take time with that person. Even when Dale Carnegie in the book that John Maxwell, that just Adam just mentioned how to win friends and influence people. He was asked, Dale Carnegie was asked one time, how did you get to have millionaires work for you? He said, well, when they joined me, they were not millionaires. And he said, well, how did you make them millionaires? And he gave this insight that we'll be concluding with today. He said, when you go to dig for gold, there's a lot of dirt around it. But when you go to dig for it, you're not looking for the dirt. You're looking for the gold. Yep. It takes time to take the dirt out of the gold, clean it up. It's only a gold digger who will know, or a gold miner that will know that, listen, don't look at all this mud. Once all this mud is gone and this gold has been through fire, has been refined, the value of it, which may seem insignificant right now, This gold may sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Don't look at the dirt when you look at people. Don't look at their shortcomings. Don't look at the things that they're not doing right. Look at the potential that they have. John Maxwell offers an advice in another book, a devotional that I used to receive, the 365 devotional by John Maxwell. He says that this principle, and I've kept this principle. Sometimes I fail. Sometimes I come short, I'll be honest. But he said every time you meet someone, practice the 199%. He said find 1% that's good in that person and give it 100% of your attention. Just
Absolutely.
get 1%. Everybody has 1% of good things in them. Just look at that, focus on that, and then give that 1% 100% of your attention. Once you start doing that, there's a lot of things you stop noticing. There's a lot of things you start, oh, hey, he always wakes up late, but he's very social. He can talk. He can be very helpful. Then you start disregarding about how late he wakes up. When you start focusing on what the person does right, what the person does wrong, becomes a little bit obsolete for you. And you focus on what is better and help the person grow. Ladies and gentlemen, it's with that we'll be finishing today. We talked about the upside of the production level. Next week, we finish up with the reproduction level. Next week, we'll be finishing up with the production level. We talk about the downside of the reproduction level, but also the best behaviors to adopt here. And by God's grace, next week, we'll also be starting with the pinnacle level, which will be the end of this book. And then we have the episode with Montage Woods, which I cannot wait for y'all to watch it. And we'll be putting out some heads up on our Instagram page. So it's your first time here on YouTube, do not forget to hit the subscribe button. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts, or even Stitcher, don't forget to hit the follow button and always follow us on our Instagram feed. There is always some motivational quotes out there. I know it's been a few weeks. Our Instagram manager was going through a tough patch, but we are getting back together to do some more work together. So thank you for your feedback. If you need any information, you can always reach out to us to www.theunboundedgrowth.com. Again, our website is www.theunboundedgrowth.com. Or you can always email us, and you can find all the information on our website on our Instagram page. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a great pleasure having y'all here. And until next week, Adam, anything?
No, really, I'm just really happy to be back, and I'm excited for the next couple of weeks. And you'll stay tuned for the conference that we have coming up. We're going to be, I think we're going to start putting it out in the media very soon, trying to secure everything and make sure that everything is in order. So I'm really excited, and I can't wait for actually Mark to share his story with those young men that we're going to be having for that conference. That will be amazing. So yeah, and really God bless you, and thank you so much for listening to us and for sharing with all your friends and for all your feedback that you keep on sending to us. So thank you, and God bless.
Thank you so much. God bless you. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.